You're here, so you've tuned into Joe's Music Something. Well, I know it's a bit confusing, so let's learn something about it. Joe's Music Something. You learn about the notes, chords, beats, sound, but almost getting out of bounds. Joe's Music Something. From Baltimore County Public Library.
Last time on Joe's Music Something.
Today's Music Something is the string instrument family. String instruments produce vibrations in 3 different ways. We bow them, we pluck them, or we hit them carefully. Specifically, bowed and plucked instruments have a lot in common.
Tour of the instrument.
The neck. We're now coming down to the bridge, transferring the vibrations into the body of the instrument. The tour will have already noticed the sound holes here. See the tuning pegs. In order to get those strings to vibrate, they use this thing here called a bow. Georgia, Georgia.
Now, on to the show.
Plucked instruments are just that, plucked, kinda like flowers. So pretty. Just like Georgia, the artist. Instrumentalists will use their fingers, fingernails, and sometimes thin pieces of plastic called plectra, also known as picks, to get the strings to vibrate. Some instruments have these metal bars in the neck called frets, which help the player know where to put their fingers to get the exact notes they want. As a guitarist myself, I'll take all the help I can get. In this plucked instrument category, we see the Indian sitar, the West African kora, the acoustic guitar, and countless others. But some plucked instruments are real bad boys who don't like to play by the rules. Take, for example, this harp. Its body isn't behind the strings, but rather under them, here. What a renegade. Our next bad boy we have is this piano-looking one called the harpsichord, where hitting each key lifts a plectrum to pluck the strings. And you've almost certainly seen these bad boys before. These are the electric guitar and bass, which are both plucked, but the bodies they have aren't hollow. No, they use these things called pickups, seen here and here. Basically, they use electricity and magnets to pick up on the vibrations the strings make and send that information to an amp, which makes it get loud.
How loud?
About this loud. Yeah, they'll be fine. Anyways, these distinctions between bowed and plucked instruments aren't hard and fast. Sometimes we pluck bowed instruments and bow plucked instruments. The term for plucking bowed instruments is pizzicato, while the term for bowing plucked instruments is unusual.
Wow. Get it.
It's just not done very often.
Okay. All right.
Moving on. Finally, we have the string instruments we hit carefully. Or in other words, strike.
You're out of here.
Oh, come on up. That was a ball. Clear as day. Ugh, whatever. Anyways, these struck string instruments are pretty straightforward. You use a stick or a hammer to hit the strings, causing them to, you guessed it, vibrate. There are only a couple of instruments that fall under this particular definition, like this hammered dulcimer, also known as the santur in India, the yongqin in China, the salterio in Italy, and by many other names in many other places. We've got more different names for this instrument than we do for the cougar, or the panther, or the mountain lion, or the puma. They're all the same animal. The other struck string instrument, ooh, that's a mouthful, is the piano. You know, that thing you see in pretty much every music room ever? This all goes to show that while there are only a few different types of struck string instruments, they are both used widely around the globe and hugely influential on music as a whole. So let's wrap this all up. As far as instruments go, strings are pretty new to the game, the earliest ones only being a few thousand years old. Many of them have a bridge, a body, a neck, and tuning pegs. They can have several strings of differing lengths and widths, allowing many different notes to be played. In order to get notes, we vibrate the instrument's strings, which is done in a variety of ways, such as the strings being struck, like with the piano, bowed, like the instruments in the string section, and plucked, like the guitar and bass. Well, that's all we've got time for today. I hope you learned something, and if you didn't, don't think about it as roughly 15 minutes or 900 seconds you've spent watching this, but rather a quarter of an hour, or only 1/96th of your day. That sounds better, right? Anywho, next time we'll be talking about keyboard instruments and getting into technology. That's a little too techy for my tastes. Ah, there we go. A nice Georgia, the font. Until next time, this has been Joe's Music Something. For more resources, check out bcpl.info.